Okay, this is John Haller. I'm trying to figure out if I'm live. So if somebody could just give me a thumbs up, you can hear me, and indicate that you can see and hear me. It's a little difficult because there's about a 15-second delay with what's showing up on YouTube. So I think I'm live. So I'm going to go ahead. If you can't hear me or it doesn't show up, please indicate something to me. You can try to message me on Facebook or elsewhere. I'll just wait here for about another half minute before everybody says. Coming in loud and clear. So look, let's just get started. So obviously, most of you are paying attention. You know that Israel is currently at war. This is a unprecedented situation. I'm going to try to kind of collect my thoughts. I've been up since about 1 a.m. Texting with people, messaging with people in Israel and elsewhere about what's going on. This is just absolutely a devastating situation that's going on. I heard somebody talking recently that said that the best way to think of it in terms of American terms is this is the equivalent of Pearl Harbor. This is an unprecedented terror attack. So about 6:30 this morning, which is Shabbat in Israel, and it's in the time of the Feast of Trumpets. I'm sorry, Feast of Tabernacles, and it's also 50 years, I believe 50 years in a day on the Western calendar from when the Yom Kippur War started in 1973. I think that was October 6, 1973. So 6:30 a.m. this morning, an unprecedented attack occurred. They were coming in by boats. They were coming in by powered hang gliders. They were coming across the border fence. I'm not sure. I've not heard of them using any of the terror tunnels that they've had before or that they've used before. But this, as I said, this is unprecedented, what's happening. They immediately started going into neighborhoods, homes. They also sent bulldozers to tear down additional parts of the fence. Now, some of my information is I'm not completely certain of it. I'm going to try to only give you stuff that I've been able to verify. But there were attacks in Israeli IDF, Israeli Defense Force barracks, where soldiers were killed. Soldiers were kidnapped. Civilians have been kidnapped. At last, I've heard that the Israeli response has killed at least 200 in Gaza, but there are at least 100 Israelis dead. That number is expected. I was texting back and forth with someone who I trust implicitly on these things, and the fear is that the death toll of Israelis will soon, the fear is that it will go into the hundreds. People were being drug out of their homes. I saw pictures of, and you can find videos. If you go to Gab, you go to Twitter, you go to, I don't use TikTok, but Telegram on Arab Palestinian channels, they're videotaping them slaughtering people in their homes. I wouldn't usually do this, but I think you should go find some of them. I won't post them. One of the things, though, I would be careful about sharing things because there are people that I've met that live in the area of the border. I think that the posting too much information will put people at risk because there are still terrorists at large in Israel. They've started airstrikes. What the Israeli Defense Force is doing, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, who came out and said, we are at war. We are going to give a devastating response. They're going to see a response like they've never imagined that we would give. They are going through and they're clearing, making sure that the neighborhoods and areas are clear of terrorists and that type of thing. They are taking people, they're parading them through Gaza City, stripping them and parading them through Gaza City. I've seen them desecrating the bodies of dead Israelis. There is a commander, an Israeli Defense Force commander, who has been kidnapped and is being paraded through Gaza. I've seen pictures of this. I wouldn't normally say go see this. These things are these pictures and videos and images are very graphic. They're sickening. They're disgusting. But I think that people almost need to go and see some of these to understand the nature of the enemy that Israel is facing right now. These people are inhuman. They are animals, and they need to be completely destroyed and wiped off the face of the earth. No negotiations, nothing like this. Now, I know everybody's going to want to talk about, well, what does this mean with the Israeli normalization or the Saudi normalization things? I don't think that that's the right question. There will be time for that. Right now, what we need to do is we need to pray for Israel, need to pray for the Israeli defense and air forces, that they will be able to deal with this issue, to pray for the leadership, and to pray that there would be unity in Israel as they face what most people say the most unprecedented terrorist attack in the history of the nation of Israel. And I don't know that now is the time to talk about, is this the Psalm 83, is Isaiah 17 and all this other stuff. There's going to be time for that. This is going to go on for days. A friend of mine who has a friend who has a son in the Israeli Defense Force, the word that came back to me, and I trust all these people involved, so I'm not uncomfortable sharing this. Some reserves have been called up. A lot of reserves have been called up. I don't know if it's a complete call up, but Defense Minister Gallant started calling them up this morning here in the U.S. our time. He was told, you're being called up and packed for at least a month. This is not something that's going to be done. Immediately right now, there are airstrikes going on in Gaza. There are soldiers going house to house in the area of the Gaza Strip and the area of Gaza along the border, in the cities, Sderot, and all the way down south to the Egyptian border, making sure that the terrorists have been killed. Let me zoom in on this map here, if I can. Let's see if this is... I'm trying to remember which screen I have sharing here. Hang on a second here. I've got to get to the right browser. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop this screen. I'm not sure how to do that. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here's the Gaza Strip that you can see here. And so in Sderot, which is here on the northern edge of the Gaza Strip, if you can see my browser or my mouse pointer, all the way down here in these villages and kibbutzes that line the border. It's a heavily agricultural region. You can see, let me zoom in here. I've actually been to Eshkol, which I'm not seeing right off the top of my head. I've been down in this region, so Eshkol should be... Well, anyway, I'll give you an example. I don't want to give too much information. I was at one of these kibbutzes down here that's along the border. We walked out, and you could stand here, and you're less than a kilometer from the border. That's when I was in December back at the Israeli or the Christian Media Summit that the Israeli government put on, and I was blessed to get invited to. So people that live in some of these kibbutzes, the stories are coming in. When we were there in the one kibbutz, we had lunch there. They gave a presentation. The lady says, we've lived here. It's 95% heaven, 5% hell. We have 10 seconds when the sirens go off for us to get to our safe room. Everybody has a safe room, particularly this part of Israel. Even in Jerusalem, everybody has a safe room. But now this one's a little bit different because they're actually coming through the fence. So the one kibbutz that we were there, they had a terrorist had come up in one of the fields along in this area, and a tunnel. They had broken through what happened was the tractor sunk down in a terror tunnel. The terror tunnel collapsed. The tractor sunk down. And that's where it happened. But they've had people in this kibbutz, they've had people killed. We went to Eshkon community center, which is kind of a collection of communities here in the south of Israel, for dinner. The mayor came, and the mayor had been hit by a rocket. 2 people killed in that attack in the kibbutz, but he was injured. He lost both of his legs. So we heard very moving talk with him and to understand what they live with on a day-to-day basis. In Eshkon, they said, well, it's 97% heaven here because we have 15 seconds to get to shelter here as opposed to 10 seconds at these other kibbutzes. So, for example, this morning, a friend of mine who knows somebody in one of these kibbutzes, the lady was in her home. She was saying that, she was in her safe room. She hadn't had anything to eat or drink for a while. She was hiding out, but she could hear the terrorists roaming through the kibbutz, going into houses to kidnap or kill people. Other people, they were in a kibbutz. I think Nicole, I'm going to get her name wrong. Jan says John, I think is her name. She used to be with All Israel News, Joel Rosenberg's outfit. She's independent now. She lives in Jerusalem. I was texting with her about 1 or 2 a.m. this morning. She said they were heading to the shelter for the second time. A couple hours later, she said they've been into the shelter 7 or 8 times now in Jerusalem because of the alerts going off. So it's affecting everybody in Israel. There's nobody in Israel, anywhere in Israel, even way in the north, that does not know somebody who's being affected by this, particularly in the south. So there's a couple of issues. So commander kidnapped. At least the official number last I saw was 100 dead, but other people are unofficially telling me they expect that to go into the hundreds. There are several hundred dead in the Gaza Strip from Israeli airstrikes. I've seen videos, you can find them very easily, videos of in Gaza City, which is up towards the north. Those buildings are collapsed. They're 10, 12-story buildings. They're almost brought straight down by several strikes hitting in key areas. So Israel's defending itself, but this is a devastating attack. One of the big issues right now is what's going to happen. Is the North going to be involved? So if I can zoom out on my map here, so the northern border. Up here, you can see Mount Hermon up in this area. I'll try to get, there you go. There's Mount Hermon in the north. And so there's a lot of questions about incursions along the border by Hezbollah. There's some indication that there have been groups moving along the border with Hezbollah flags. I don't know if that's indication of an attack. I heard an interview with the director of the Alma Educational Institute that's located in northern Israel, and I apologize, I cannot remember her name. I saw an interview with her on CBN with Chris Mitchell. She was saying the $1 million question is Hezbollah going to get involved? Is the North going to get involved? Is there going to be war in the North? And her comment was, I don't even think, that's the $1 million question, and I don't even think Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, knows the answer to that yet. So this is a very fluid situation. It's going to go on for a while. There have been a number of responses. Of course, the governments of the world, by and large, have come out in support of Israel, the governments in the West, the EU, France, I'm pretty sure the UK, I know the United States has, and other countries. Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries to come out and say this needs to stop. This needs to be over. They do not need to be coming in. And that's the question everybody has is what's this going to affect, the impact that this is going to have on the Saudis and whether they're going to continue with the normalization process. The way that has been set up, and I have a number of things to talk about that in my update tomorrow. As I was joking with Bill Koenig this morning, he's at the Prophecy Watchers conference in Oklahoma City, and they changed the schedule at Oklahoma City to give him and Bill Salas some time. And I believe Prophecy Watchers has posted the video of that panel of Bill Salas and Bill Koenig this morning on their YouTube channel if you want to go and watch that. And I kind of jokingly said to bill is that, prophecy conference schedule altered due to unforeseen circumstances. So it's a very, very fluid situation. Don't know if anything's going to happen more. Saudi Arabia came out and said needs to stop. If anything, I think on the Saudi normalization thing, I think it will create further distance between Saudi Arabia and the Palestinians. Saudi Arabia is pretty much let go of the Palestinians. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. If you want to prep for that, go to the Jerusalem Post website and read the great article from Friday's Jerusalem Post by Jonathan Spire about how some of the Saudi publications are dealing with that, some of the important people that people listen to in Saudi Arabia. I think there's a space being created between Saudi Arabia and the Palestinians. But right now, the more immediate term is, what do we do? I was talking to a friend who was supposed to leave Israel tonight. His flight has been canceled. The airport is still open, but a number of airlines are canceling their flights. And he did not know when he was going to be out. I've seen a lot of people asking about Andy Woods. Andy did post a update, brief update, a few minutes long on his YouTube channel. He's on a Mediterranean cruise, Bible Lands cruise, and he's in Greece. He's not supposed to get to Israel until the 10th. So who knows if that's going to happen. Everything is very fluid. I know a lot of people have trips planned. Right now, I would say you have to check. If you have a trip planned, you need to check with your tour organizer to find out if that tour is going to go forward. I would also say my friend staying in Tel Aviv near the Ben Gurion airport said that you really wouldn't know that he got up this morning. He was in Eilat all the way down south along the Red Sea. And he said, well, I'm going to go. And she goes, well, you're not going to go anywhere near Gaza. And he goes, well, what's going on? So he didn't even know it down in Eilat. But so he drove up through Beersheba and got up to his hotel, and then his flight's been canceled. So who knows when he's going to be able to get home. But so everything is very fluid right now. Again, pray for the people of Israel. Support them. There are a number of organizations. I'm only going to mention one, not because I necessarily endorse everything that they do. I know that Moriel has some people in Israel, and I know that if you gave money through Moriel and designated for Israel, that money would get to people to help. There's going to be extreme cost to this. You can imagine in these communities, if there's 100, 200, 300, 400 people dead, there's already around 1,000 injured. My friend up in Tel Aviv is near a hospital. He said the medevac flights are coming in and out of the airport, or out of the next to the hotel that he's staying in where the hospital is. So there's a lot of things going on. I'm going to try to do some interviews with some people next week. Let's see, I'm trying to get here. I'm going to try to do some things with some people next week about some interviews and that type of thing. But right now, that's all very fluid because of the situation there. So if you have any questions, type them in all caps starting now, because I don't think that I have time to do this. And I see a comment here, pray for the people of Palestine too. Yes, pray for the people of Palestine. But what you need to understand is that the situation with Hamas, I know it's not everybody in the Gaza Strip, but this is a problem that needs to be dealt with. I do not think that this time that the leadership in Israel, on a political basis, on a strategic basis, gets away with, as I think Caroline Glick is the one I hear say it all the time, this is not time to mow the lawn in Gaza. This is a time to tear it down. Israel controls the water and other resources going into Gaza. There are as I said, I don't know if I said the number, there are estimated to be 100 hostages that have been taken from Israel into Gaza. This is unprecedented. I saw pictures of young Israeli girls, like in their 20s, teens and 20s, being kidnapped into jeeps and, shackled and taken away and beaten up. I've seen bodies desecrated. I think you need to look at some of these videos. You can understand and watch the crowds of people as they drag a body or a live person through the streets of Gaza, and tell me that there's not something that needs to be done about this that is clear, sends a clear message and is devastating. So Saudi Arabia's come out, said it needs to stop. Now other countries have come out in support of the operation. The operation is being called, I don't have the page in front of me, Al-Aqsa Freedom or something. So they're claiming that Al-Aqsa is what is important here. This is their motivating thing. And so what they're doing here, I'm going to get here to my tab, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm not trying to make anybody sick by doing this, by the way. So I'm trying to find I'm in the wrong section. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So here's the Temple Mount in Israel. So what they're upset about is that over the past few days during the high holy days between Yom Kippur and Tabernacles, there were close to 4,000 Jews who went up on the Temple Mount. They're storming Al-Aqsa. They're attacking Al-Aqsa. And one of the Hamas channels was posting, we want to stop them attacking Al-Aqsa, and we want them to not be able to rebuild their temple. So they're concerned about that. And that's an issue. And I've talked a lot about that recently, that Saudi Arabia seems to be backing off the centrality of the Temple Mount. But understand, King Abdullah II of Jordan, when he went to Israel, he controls the Waqf, which is the Muslim religious organization that's in charge of the Temple Mount district. What they call Al-Aqsa, by the way, Al-Aqsa is the mosque, okay? They used to call the whole Temple Mount area, this big square of about 35 acres, Harim al-Sharif. They now call the whole thing Al-Aqsa. But there have been things that the Saudis have published recently, and affirming Dr. Mordecai Kadar and other scholars, that Muhammad's night journey did not take place from the Dome of the Rock area of the Dome of the Rock. That's a myth that actually occurred in Saudi Arabia near Mecca. And it has nothing to do with the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And part of that is the Saudis, I don't want to ascribe too much motives to them. The Saudis have a tremendous investment in Mecca. They've invested billions and billions and billions of dollars in Mecca, and they want, from an economic standpoint, let alone a religious one, they want the people to visit Mecca. They want them to stay in what is the world's largest hotel in the Royal Clock Tower. They want them to shop in the world's largest shopping mall, which is in the Royal Clock Tower, and other hotels and everything that are being built on a massive scale in Mecca. So the Saudis, I think, they don't have the attachment to Jerusalem. Now, not Netanyahu, Erdogan of Turkey and others do have that attachment to Jerusalem. Erdogan has attachments to Mecca, Medina too, because he wants to restore the Ottoman Empire, but he also has an attachment to the Temple Mount. He's putting a lot of money into different neighborhoods in Jerusalem to build support there. And I can just tell you, if something happens with the Saudis backing away from the Temple Mount and allowing Israel to have control of parts of the Temple Mount, there's going to be a war anyway over it. And I think personally what we're seeing set up may be the king of the north and king of the south as talked about in Daniel chapter 11. So I think I did an interview with Tom Hughes on Wednesday, You can go to hopeforourtimes.com, their app, or on their website. It wasn't put on YouTube. And I think I did say somewhere in that interview and talk with Tom that I thought that there was going to be a war soon. And I'm looking at the way Erdogan reacts to anything about the Temple Mount. So the important thing right now is that mainly in the south of Israel, in Gaza, around Gaza Strip, there is a lot of things going on. And this should be a lesson to everybody that the two-state solution, there's a state in Gaza and there's a state of Israel. In that area, there's a two-state solution and it's not working. But what the terrorists are saying is, okay, listen, when we did the Intifada, after Ariel Sharon had gone to the Temple Mount, they launched the second Intifada. I think I have my timing correct. Probably 1,000 Israelis were killed during that period of time. Terrorist bombings in Jerusalem and other places, in Netanya and other cities. They said, well, we won that because after that, with pressure from the Bush administration back in 2005, all of the Jewish settlements in Gaza were closed down and the people shipped elsewhere. And so the terrorists in Gaza said, see, if we're just bad enough, they will give us what we want. And so there's a bigger picture here. I think that Hamas, which is Iranian supported, is trying to draw Hezbollah in from the north. And I think there's a lot of pressure being put by the nation of Iran on its main proxy, Hezbollah, in southern Lebanon, along the northern border of Israel, that they want Hezbollah to get involved. That's the thing to watch for over the next few days. And also what I think is going to be, I expect this to be shock and awe, but this is Gaza, very densely populated. Gaza City particularly is very densely populated. When we were in Israel, we went to the military base in southern Israel where they have constructed a mock-up of Gaza City. And they showed us how, and it's very difficult militarily to fight in close quarters like that because everything's a wall or a corner that somebody can hide behind. So pray for Israel, pray for the soldiers. The other concern, too, is that not only is there going to be war in the north, but there's tremendous amount of unrest in the areas of what's called the West Bank, really Judea and Samaria. There's been a lot of Israeli Defense Force operations in those cities, Nablus and other cities where these terrorist operations are put together. And there's the Israeli Defense and Security Forum. I have a copy of their one of their recent surveys that they did, surveying the attitudes of people. And the attitudes of people in the Arab areas of Israel are not very encouraging for there to be some kind of peace. So, okay, now I'm going to flip back over to my other tab and see what's going on here with if there are any questions. Let's see, here's one. What type of military response do you believe Netanyahu meant by unprecedented? Melissa, I don't know the exact answer to that question. I remember that it was a few years ago at the one of the conferences, one of the security conferences, the head of the Israeli Air Force at the time, this is about 2017, 2018, said that if there was going to be a war in the north, that Israel was ready, and it was in Hebrew, so the translation kind of came through. You're going to see shock and awe like you've never seen before. And whereas the 2006 Second Lebanon War lasted for about 37 days, we're going to do in 24 to 72 hours, what we did and accomplished in over 5 weeks in the Second Lebanon War. The implication being you're going to see shock and awe like you've never seen. I think that Netanyahu, politically and everything, I think that he does have to I think that he does have to do that. So that's just my question. So here's another question. Philo, will this lead to the coming 7-year peace plan spoke of in Revelation? I don't think Revelation speaks of a 7-year peace plan. There is Daniel 9:27 says he will confirm a covenant with the many for 1 week. So a lot of the common understanding in Bible prophecy is that that's a 7-year covenant of some kind that's enacted. I think it's clear that I think this is the Antichrist trying to imitate what Christ really did at his first coming, which was bring in the new covenant. Antichrist is going to imitate it. This is my understanding, and it's going to be for a week, but he's going to do the abomination of desolation in the middle of the week. So it's in the midpoint of that 7-year period. So I don't know. I think that this is leading up to it. I think that what leads up to that covenant, which in Isaiah 28 or 29 describes as the covenant of death and hell, covenant with death and hell that they'll make. I think that covenant is preceded by a lot of war, some pretty devastating wars, and I think this may be one of those devastating wars. So here's a question. Lorraine Brobert launches attack on irresponsible Joe Biden over Israel. Will O'Kinion respond, or is Israel without any alliance? Listen, a lot of what I think is going on, I just heard a pretty good interview with Kevin McCarthy, whether you like him or not, on Fox. And he was pretty direct. He said that a lot of this, what's going on, is because it appears that we don't really support Israel as a country. This emboldens the people in the region to do things like this. And that one of the things that we've done with Iran is we continued our government, the government of the United States, not my government, but the government of the United States, really is trying they're trying to put some kind of agreement in place with Iran. While we didn't write a check for $6 billion to Iran, we backed off on sanctions and allowed $6 billion of money to be released to Iran. Well, what do you think Iran is going to do with this? I think we're going to see some things so to go back to an earlier question, what do I think the type of response is going to be? I don't know. We've got wars all over the place. We've got Ukraine, Russia. I have a lot to say about that tomorrow. Clips of recent speech or talk that Vladimir Putin did at the Valdai discussion group in Sochi 2 days ago. I've heard all these reports that Putin is ill. Putin was on stage and I don't know, it was a live stream. I looked to see if there were any breaks taken. He was on stage for 3 hours and 45 minutes talking, answering questions. Can you imagine Joe Biden being on stage anywhere if he could find the stage, assuming he finds the stage, that he could be there for 3 hours and 45 minutes. But he was talking about nuclear response and that type of thing. So we have that. We have, Ukraine's done better than a lot of people thought they would in the war with Russia because of some developments in artificial intelligence and programming weapons and that type of thing. Russia's been able to adapt as well. There was an attack in Syria up around Homs the other day. I believe this was one drone. It was a military academy graduation. Now, the question is, who did it? Was it Turkey? Was it Syria Defense Forces? Was it the U.S.? But one drone attacked that military academy graduation ceremony, and 100 people were killed and hundreds injured by one drone. So imagine a country like Israel has many drones like that, and I think you're going to see some other things. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else on here. The Biden government hates Israel. That's true. I don't think there's any support there. Here's a question. How did this happen? Israel was caught completely unawares. So there's going to be a lot of adaptation that's going to have to take place. Israel was caught extremely flat-footed by this. And it's interesting, it happened like one day after the 50-year anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, when Israel was caught flat-footed again and almost didn't survive it. Now, I don't think you're in a situation where Israel's not going to survive this. I think they're going to win. But the question is, at what cost? And so there's going to be a lot of investigations, recriminations as to how this could have happened. It does appear to be, with the way the attack unfolded, a rather massive intelligence and operational failure on the part of Israel. And they'll investigate it and they'll adapt, and I think they'll come out okay on the other side. But this was, somebody has compared it to the equivalent of Pearl Harbor happening to the United States. It's really that big. So let me look here for a few more questions. So I have a lot, you imagine, I have a lot for an update tomorrow. This was not something when I went to bed last night that I planned on doing. Just let me see if I see any more. So what's the global response so far? I would say generally the response in the West has been to support Israel. I think even the United States said, we'll do whatever we need to support Israel. I think Biden said that. Now, I don't know what that means with Biden, okay? I don't trust him. I think that there's this anti-Israel thing that's been going on in the first two Obama administrations and now in what I call the third Obama or Biden administration has been very pro-Iranian and by being pro-Iranian, they're anti-Israel. I just don't think you can be the same. So Saudis have come out, but I said Qatar, I call it Qatar. The country has come out and said this is all Israel's fault because they've been attacking Al-Aqsa. So it'll be interesting to see. Here's a comment. Pretty sure Bibi would obliterate them, but I think he cares about the hostages. Yeah, so the question is, how do they do this operation and not worry about the hostages or take care of the hostages? This is an incredibly difficult situation that will require extreme caution and wisdom. I think what you might see is Israel lay siege to Gaza and cut off their water and see what that happens. Here's another, this is a good question, Isaiah 26:3. If this incident escalates, what will it be called in Bible prophecy? Well, I would say it would be called a step along the way. I think at this point, I don't think there should be really any argument about whether we're in the end times. I just don't think that that's a legitimate question any longer. The question is, how far along that timeline are we? I would expect, Isaiah 26:3, I would expect that things are going to escalate further along the way. If things break loose in the north of Israel, then it's going to be, this is a major war. this is a major war. So I mentioned I mentioned Moriel. You can contribute to Moriel. Just designate that you want your gift to go to Israel. They do have mission operations in Israel. I know that Dalton Thomas and the people over at FAI Mission, Dalton lives in the Golan, and I just saw a brief update from him, and they've pledged that everything that's given will go to people, whether they have to get people out of the south and move them up to the north like they did a little while ago. Let me give you a comparison as to what's happened here. A little over a year ago, they had another dust up with Gaza. A lot of rockets being thrown into Israel. A lot of it related to, I think that was around Passover or feast. It was around one of the feast holidays. The feast of the time they observed the feast in Israel, the Lord's feast in Israel. At that time, in 10 days, they launched 3,000 rockets. That was 10 days. And everybody's concerned at the level of the number of rockets that were being thrown in, because Iron Dome can only handle so many, and some are going to get through. Today, they've had, the most recent estimate I've seen is over 5,000. So a year ago it was 3,000 in 10 days, and that was pretty intense. It's 5,000 today. And the concern, if they come in from the north, that it could be 10 or 20,000 a day, maybe more. They estimate they have several 100,000 rockets up there. Now, there's rockets, missiles, some are guided, some are not. So this could be incredibly devastating. And the other thing you should watch too is the technology that Israel uses to respond. Iron Dome and David Sling seem to be the way that they're going to handle this. There's been a lot of talk about lasers being developed, and those are probably 6 months at best to a year away from being operational. So don't expect that to give any relief. Those have limited range. They're much cheaper than Iron Dome, but they're just not quite ready yet. They're making tremendous strides of developing them, but they're not ready to go yet. So so let's see. Looking through here. Okay, well, look. Let me go down here to new comments and see. So somebody said Amir Sarfati's, I'll just give him credit. He's going to do he's doing a conference in Philadelphia right now with Barry Stagner is what I'm told. So he's going to do a live one at 7 p.m. tonight. I'll update it with more tomorrow. Look, there's Christian Broadcasting Network. I don't know if Eric Stackelback at Trinity, whatever network he's with, The Watchman, if he's done anything yet or not. There's other people putting up short ones. This is, there's a lot going on. The Russia thing concerns me greatly. I will talk more about that tomorrow. As I said, I'm trying to collect my thoughts just on this one particular topic right now. So listen, let's see. Here's a question. Tom Kimball. It escalates, then it will be Isaiah chapter 17. Damascus will be an inhabited wasteland, in an uninhabitable wasteland. That's true. That could happen. That could be part of this. I don't know that we're there yet, but there's a lot going on in Israel. Turkey has been bombing eastern Syria like crazy. They've been bombing Idlib like crazy. You're not even hearing about this in the news. That's the kind of interesting thing, is that Turkey's kind of flying under the radar here, and they're trying to reach their tentacles out into everything. It's pretty amazing. And yes, it is It is this. So here's a question. How does Hamas get all those missiles in the Gaza Strip? How do they get past Israel military? Well, the only thing I can say, Sharon, is this. It's a very big world. So if you go here to Gaza and you look, so I'm thinking that this is 20 miles north to south, a lot of coastline. They smuggle things in. There's all kinds of stuff being smuggled into Israel all the time, particularly across the border with Jordan. Their weapons, there was a big cache of weapons that was picked up at coming in across one of these border crossings. By the way, just give me 1 second, because there was one other thing that I wanted to share with you briefly that I think was important. I have to go find it. By the way, another good website to follow. I will give. I don't know if I should identify the person who operates this Facebook group, but on Facebook, Be Alert Bible Prophecy is a good website. A lot of good information is posted there, and usually verified. So Be Alert Bible Prophecy in the news on Facebook. And there was I don't see it here. I think it might be at memory.org. Memory TV or Memory. That's Middle East Media Research Institute. Oh, good grief. I didn't even see this. Lebanese Hezbollah affiliated website releases personally identifying information of CIA officers, including photos, addresses, and names and numbers as part of a doxing campaign. That was just yesterday. I don't see it here. I saw a report about, I'll try to follow up tomorrow. I'll just sort of give you a little bit of a tip about it. Russia has said, Hezbollah, you can send your older weapons to northeast Syria to fight the American contingent there and the Turks and the Kurds and all that other stuff. And we'll supply you with newer weapons in Hezbollah in northern Israel. Now, I'm trying to confirm that. Somebody did send me the link on that, and I just can't find it right off the top of my head right now. Let me see. Apologize here, trying to do this live and read everything that's going on. So anyway, so again, Moriel Ministries, FAI Mission, I think will get thing to people to help them. This is going to be a very difficult time for Israel. I'll finish with this. So Israel has been, there have been weapons that the United States has given to Israel to store in Israel in the case they need them. At our direction, a lot of those weapons have been sent to Ukraine. That means that the weapons stores from Israel are probably down at the present time. So that may limit some of the things they're going to do in their operations. A very difficult time. There's a lot of moving pieces to things that are going on right here. And I just don't think that, so I don't know. You guys have to decide who you're going to give your money to. I see some comments about that here. Let's see here. Anyway, so I'm just trying to think of people that you can give your money to that's going to get directly to people without a bunch of administrative fees being taken out or large salaries and stuff. So that's just my idea. Here's a question from Heidi. Is the USA going to help with weapons like they did for Ukraine? I don't know that we have the weapons. There's reports in the Times of London that the UK supplies are way down. Weapons supplies are way down. Same thing across Europe. Everybody's beginning everything to Ukraine, and Ukraine's just turned into a meat grinder. Things get destroyed. They get shipped there. They get destroyed. A lot of Ukrainians being killed. A lot of Russians being killed, but way more Ukrainians. And I just don't think there's going to be much of a country called Ukraine at the end of this, depending when or if that ever finishes up. So I think that one of the things that you can take care of, I see the comment here about Iran gave the green light for this. I have no doubt that that's the case. Iran said, hey, Hamas, go for it. And it may be a calculation on the part of the Iranian leadership that that's going to drag in Hezbollah up here in the north of Israel. So another website to follow, and I promise this is it, alma-research.org. alma-research.org. That's particularly with regard to things going on in the north of Israel. They do excellent research, have a lot of good information, maps, graphics, so you can understand what's going on. So anyway, look, appreciate you taking the time to listen. God bless. Pray for Israel. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. But we're going to be talking about this one for a little while. This is not going to be over in a week. It's not. It's too big. It's too important. There are too many other moving parts. So anyway, thank you for listening. I will talk to you on my update tomorrow, live 11 a.m. on Fellowship Bible Chapel, Real FBC on Rumble, Fellowship Bible Chapel YouTube, Fellowship Bible Chapel Facebook, and Real FBC on Rumble, and Fellowship Bible Chapel app. Thank you. God bless.